It is the simplest damn thing in the world, yet nobody sees it. At least, according to Henry Dent, a New York Times bestselling author and contrarian extraordinaire. Despite the fact that it could have the greatest impact on our global economy, the topic of demographic trends has flown relatively under the radar until last week, when the Republic of China made news headlines as they are now encouraging families to have 3 children. It's an attempt to unwind what is widely seen as a disastrous policy of 1 child per family since the 1980s. With more people dying every day in China than being born, China faces impending economic doom. It is simple, really, a matter of supply and demand. As both supply and demand grows, the proverbial pie, our economy, also grows. The news stories coming from China are shocking, actually, kind of like a real life Handmaid's Tale. For decades, China has enforced strict population planning guidelines limiting families to 1 or more recently 2 children. This included fines, contraceptives, and even in some instances, forced abortion to keep the birth rates low. The recent news brought relief to one Chinese woman who exclaimed she no longer had to hide her 3rd child. Despite efforts to change the trend line, a low birth rate culture has permeated the country, and families, even though they're allowed to have more now, don't necessarily want them. Raising a child is expensive. Many women are in the second spring of their burgeoning careers and, quite frankly, have overinvested time and money into their singular children. It's led Mr. Dent to boldly proclaim that not only will China never overtake the US economy, but they will literally die as a worldwide economic power. A trickle effect that will no doubt be felt by countries that regularly engage in trade with China. While not as severe as China, demographic constraints are not an issue singular to them. Japan was actually the first to the demographic cliff party, an interesting trend that correlated with a rapid rise and fall of their stock market and housing market, the bubble bursting in the early 90s and still decades later not recovering. Here in the US, we are relying on our echo boom generation. Comprised of both millennials and Gen Y, these generations are poised to save our economy from the baby boomer hangover. True, US birth rates have declined for the 6th year in a row, and university enrollment is poised to see a cliff in 2025. But that's because our echo boom generation, now ages 26 through 40, are entering their highest earning and spending years. With existing data, we can predict highly specific spending trends on average. We know people spend the most money at age 46. Statistically speaking, you will spend most money on your car at age 84, and you will buy your most expensive house at age 39. We know that the average household in the US will spend most money on potato chips at age 42 because we know most people have their first child at age 28. And we know the highest consumers of calories are 14-year-olds munching on potato chips on your couch. So I get asked all the time, how do I feel about the stock market over the next 15 to 20 years? I feel good. Don't get me wrong, we'll have short-term volatility. And yes, we will feel the impact of the demographic pressures from other countries like China. I personally predict greater inflation. A major supplier of the US, China is losing their workforce rapidly. Meanwhile, our echo boom generation is coming into their own. Consumer spending and demand will rise here in the US. Supply from China would theoretically fall. This means inflation up, consumer spending up. Both of these actually correlate positively with the stock market and theoretically should result in a bull market over the next several decades. I am by no means a savant. And to be sure, there are much more educated and adept economists and professionals than myself. But the impact of demographic trends on our economy and our stock market cannot be overstated. Thanks to our echo boom generation, our stocks should go up, more homes should be purchased, national income should rise, and spending should skyrocket. Despite massive US debt, this has to provide some degree of comfort for our long term investors. Has your advisor talked to you about this? That's it for this week. This is Jeannie Fisher, the 401k lady.